in Australia, my parents were school teachers, or at least my father was a school teacher, my mother was a librarian. We lived, I guess, by the time I left Australia, we were living in a kind of upper middle class bracket, and so things were quite comfortable for me. I went to a private school, not one of the top private schools, but a kind of affordable private school. And then I just kind of left. We all left, and we all left the nest and landed in London, and things were very, very different. Things were very different than we thought that they were going to be. First of all, we thought that London would be an exciting place to live in. We thought that everything, I mean, this is what Australians are kind of led to believe, that everything's kind of happening there in London, and there's this incredible music scene and all of this sort of stuff. And in fact, when we arrived there, that was completely untrue. It was dead in every possible way. And we did. We arrived there with no money, and we lived in, I guess, fairly sort of humble situations. Yeah, and we certainly couldn't survive off making music, so we had to do other jobs. Well, for me, it was fantastic. We had spent these years between leaving Australia and going to London in fairly miserable circumstances, and I think that in London we were largely ignored, and I believe a lot of the reason for that was because we were Australian, and in those days a band coming from Australia was certainly not taken seriously, and the idea that an Australian band could play interesting music was virtually unheard of, I think. And we were treated fairly much in that way. And then we started to tour Europe, and we actually played a concert in Berlin, and the moment we got there, our whole circumstances changed. We were, I don't know if we were taken seriously really, but we were kind of adopted into kind of the Berlin art world in some way, which was very alive at the time and very exciting. A lot of really interesting things were going on, and we just didn't go back. You know. You know, we don't have that much to do with each other unless we're working together. I don't really see him very often in between times that we make Bad Seeds records or in times that I go to Neubauten concerts. I see very little of him, but I love Blixer, and it's always just an extraordinary experience to work with him, and we get on really well. I don't think I've particularly suffered. You know, I've just led a. You know, I mean, I don't really know about that. I basically go into the office every morning. I'm very dedicated to the writing process and the songwriting process, and I really love it. I really enjoy it, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy to do that. In the times when I'm, let's say, depressed, I'm not writing anything. You know, I'm not doing anything. That's why I am that way. If I'm writing and the ideas are coming out, I'm usually pretty happy, actually. And it's always been like that. For me, this kind of, the periods of suffering, to use that word, which I think we all use a little bit too liberally, I don't do anything. You know, I don't. The last thing I'm going to do is sit down and try and write a song. I don't feel like I use bad feelings to write songs. I mean, to me, the whole idea of writing a song, the whole act of writing a song is an attempt to kind of lift you out of the ordinary and the mundane and aspects of your life, and to sort of transport you somewhere else. That's the great thing about music. And that's primarily why I do it. It just makes me better. I've lived on and off in London over the last 23 years or something like that. And I always return to it. I think I always return to it primarily because it's English speaking. I don't speak any foreign languages. And my family's there, really. My children are there. And that's pretty much why I live there. You know, they have various mothers and they all live there in London, and to be with my children, you know, I have to live there. I find it quite a good place to work in. I love the springtime in England. I love the, you know, the flowers and the buzzing bees and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot about it that I really don't like as well. It can be a very depressing place to live. But I work there, and I work very hard there, and I find it a good place to work. You know, I mean, I've always believed in God, and I still do. I don't belong to any organised religion. I don't go to church, you know, and you know whatever they do in churches. But I believe in God. I always have. I think that's kind of. It wasn't like kind of finding my way there or something. I just always have had a sense of that, and that's kind of changed over the years and has developed, and different things have gone on. But I'm not a kind of born-again Christian. There are different ways of believing in God. There's fundamentalist views and fanatical views, and there's many different ways, and there's very many different ways of interpreting the Bible as well. And I have a quiet belief in things. I'm outraged by some of the interpretations of the word of Christ. I think that they're wrong. I think that they're evil.
So, werte Two-Rock-Zuschauer, das war's jetzt hier von Two-Rock, von Nick Cave aus der Philipshalle in Düsseldorf. Wunderbares Konzert, wunderbarer Künstler. Ich hoffe, euch hat die letzte Stunde genauso viel Spaß gemacht wie mir. Ich wünsche euch noch einen schönen Abend, macht es gut, Pussys und bis morgen. Bye, bye.